Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Edinburgh Napier University Global Online MBA webinar. My name is Helen Spiropoulos, and joining me this evening all the way from the university is Dr. Catherine. Good evening to you, Dr. Catherine.
Hi, Helen. Good evening, all.
Okay, so I am based in the UAE, and I can see that we do have quite a few attendees with us. We have as far as, I can see from South Africa, I can see from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and as far as Mauritius as well. So welcome, everyone. How we are going to do the webinar this evening is I'm just briefly going to introduce you to Stafford Global. I'm then going to hand you over to Dr. Catherine, who's going to take you through the MBA presentation. Now, towards the end of the presentation, you do have the opportunity to type out any questions that you would like to ask me or Dr. Catherine. What I am going to be looking at is trying to group the questions together, because a lot of the questions are similar, if not identical. So please do listen out to the question and the answer. Okay, so let's just get started about Stafford Global. Now, Stafford Global has been in the education industry for 30 years. We are a resource provider for 6 UK universities, and one of our universities that we have partnered with is Edinburgh Napier University, and we do have a very, very good relationship with that particular university. Now, we do offer a variety of programs ranging from a BA to diploma, certificates, MBAs, right through until doctorates. So we really do have all the programs that will suit your personal and professional needs. And we do also have an administration department which does assist students throughout their studies. Now, the mere fact that you are here with us this evening means that you have been in touch with one of our experienced academic consultants, and they are here to ensure that you do get that very, very important unconditional offer. Okay, so I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Catherine, and I will then join you again towards the end of presentation and take all your questions. Okay, over to you, Dr. Catherine.
Thanks, Helen. Hi, everyone. So just a quick introduction. My name's Catherine, and I'm the Deputy Program Leader for our Global Online program. We have a program leader as well, Dr. Andrew Bratton, who you will get to meet when you do, join the program. So just to make you aware of the key program members. So just some of the things I want to go through today is just to give us an introduction briefly into where we're based. So we're based in Edinburgh. Just want to go through our program as well, and also the assessment structure, how the program structured, and then finally things like graduation and so on. So as a starting point, like I said, we're based in Edinburgh, and so Edinburgh on its own is quite a progressive city. As you see there, we've been voted as the best city to live in for the past 3 years. So we do have, it's quite a prominent great city, and a lot of the students certainly who graduate from Edinburgh Uni go on to live here and have good careers and so on. We're also known in terms of having a lot of tech startups, companies in Edinburgh, and also financial organizations. And this seems to be the biggest, say, hub outside London. So it is quite a prominent city in terms of career development. But also we're known for having some of the largest festivals in the UK, particularly art. Currently, we have the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which runs from beginning of August to the end of August. So we've had a lot of visitors coming to Edinburgh actually in the last month and this month. So a lot going on. So really great city, and hopefully when you do join our program, there will be opportunities for you to visit us and see yourself, certainly during graduation, which I'll talk about at a later date. So, in terms of our students, then, in terms of Edinburgh Napier, we have about over 2,000 students. And that's increasing as we're going on. And two-thirds of the number of students that we have are based on campus. We also have a diverse range of students. So it says that we have about 130 students from 130 countries. So we do have quite a global approach in terms of our outreach, but also in terms of how we teach and also how we approach our programs, because we do value that diversity. And certainly for someone who, teaches as well on campus as also online and internationally with Edinburgh Napier, that's something that we really enjoy because it enhances the quality of the teaching that we do. That we for ourselves, the teaching experience, but also the quality of teaching that we deliver. So we have 6,000 studying in partner universities worldwide. So we have partner universities in Singapore, in Hong Kong, Miami. We have students in the Caribbean as well, and also we have our online, which is include our MBA and MSc programs and the MBA which you're interested in currently. So like I said, we are quite global in our approach and also our outreach, and we do value that diversity and that international perspective for from the university. I teach also internationally actually, so I actually just got back from Singapore in July because we teach over there, and that was a great experience for me as a lecturer. So really quite something that we're proud of and we celebrate. Um, in terms of what we're getting externally as well, so it's not just say what I'm saying about the university, but it's also some of the things that is showing the work that we're doing and how it's being recognized externally. So views on our university, so we're considered number one modern university for business management. We are top five in UK modern universities for accounting and finance. We're top 10 in terms of UK Modern University for marketing, top 15 Modern University for business studies. So you can kind of see there that, um, be it business management, accounting, marketing, we have those recognitions, which is really a testament in terms of the work that we do that we're proud of, but also a variation in terms of different areas and expertise that we have. And a lot of this is also reflected in terms of the programs that we have on the MBA. So just to show a few things there that is recognizing what we're doing internally. We also focus a great deal in terms of graduate employability. So you can see there we're top 10 in that. And again, that's kind of showing that it's not just focused on say teaching, but everything that we do focuses on making sure that all our students are able to secure good jobs after, and we're preparing our students in terms of for employability, and that applies to both on campus and online. So, and that's reflected in terms of how we teach, for instance, in terms of the contents, the materials that we use, but also you find when you join the MBA program as well, we have a lot of events that we put on throughout different semesters, which focuses on employability, and so really some big focus in terms of what we're doing in terms of our teaching and learning. We also say, the HR Excellence in Research Award. So again, we have emphasis on research, and we can see the benefit of that in terms of we're ensuring that every area that we're focused on, there is research and it's formed by research, and that feeds back into our learning and development as well. For the student survey, we have 84% student satisfaction, and I can proudly say that we've actually gone up this year, and we're currently at 88%. So we are, progressively trying to improve our, what we offer. And again, that's a testament in terms of the survey and so on. We're also members of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, and also we have the UK Quality Certified. So really quite a great perspective there, and we're glad to say that what we're doing internally is reflected externally as well. Okay, so that just gives us a breakdown in terms of who we are, where we're based, and what we're prioritizing. But in terms of the actual program, just want to get into that a bit more, just to give you an idea of what that's like. So for all the MBA program, we have the option to go through a general route, or you can go through a specialist route. So I'll show you in the next slide the different specialist routes that we focus on. But as a starting point, for every MBA student, you will be required to do 4 core modules. So regardless of whether you're on the general route, or whether you're on the maybe MBA for human resource, for instance, you will be starting with 4 core modules. So those are the modules: management and organizational change, leading strategic decision making, marketing and business high performing organization, global business economics and finance. And then after taking those 4 modules, you then move on to your specialist modules. So for the general MBA route, the specialist module that you will be taking is management, innovation, and contemporary issues in strategic management. So if you're doing, for example, MBA with an HRM, human resource specialist route, for instance, the 2 specialist modules you'll be taking will be specific to human resource and wouldn't be the management, innovation, or contemporary issues, for example. So basically, what will be swapped out based on the specialist module will be specific to that module. So if it's marketing as well, it would be 2 specific modules which are specific to marketing. We also have the research skills for managers, and then your final MBA project. So the research skills for managers is just to give you some, because you will be doing a project for your final MBA. And so we recognize then that not everybody will have the skills maybe to do research, for instance. And so this will be something that will equip you with skills in terms of what is required in terms of research. In order to do research, we might be looking at a qualitative research. We might be looking at a quantitative one. So your quantitative will be something like surveys, questionnaires, which some people might be familiar with. Whereas your qualitative will be more things like interviews, focus groups. So these are some of the things that we will be teaching you on that module, and making sure that you're choosing the appropriate one for the type of project that you will be undertaking. But also through that module, you will get to write a proposal which will be based on the MBA project that you will be doing. So it's basically some sort of a lead up to the MBA project that you'll be doing. And for those, we will assign you a supervisor who will have expertise in the area that you're involved in. So, for example, I'm based in the human resource management department, and I've supervised several students on MBA projects that are specific to human resource or organizational behavior, and you get someone of a similar sort to guide you through the process. And so the benefit of that then is they will ensure that there's a clear structure in terms of your project, advise your feasibility, advise you in terms of the best approach, and so on and so forth. But the idea is that the project is yours, and it will give you a chance to focus on an area that you're very much passionate about. Yeah. So in the past, we've had students who maybe are sponsored by their employer, and they've decided to focus on a project which is maybe something that's specific in the organization, that it's still raising questions, or an area which isn't quite clear, and they've based their project on that, and then went on to investigate, develop an analysis, come up with an answer, and they presented it back to the organization, and that's gone a long way in terms of helping them in terms of promotion and so on and so forth. So it's up to you really in terms of the topic the project that you go for, but it has to be specific in the area that that you're specializing in. Yeah, but that just gives you a picture of what that would be like. So as you can see there, then, so for the first modules, you will be having 20 credits. So these are 20 credit modules. The only 40 credit one is your MBA project that you'll be doing towards the end. So in terms of the modules that we're taking, the 4 core modules are very much topics which are general, but things that you will face in an organization. But they're also beneficial in the sense that even though you might not specialize in maybe marketing, for instance, but you get a feel, a taster of what marketing is like, and within that module of marketing and building high performing organizations. So all the core modules has been selected specifically because there are things which are general and important in any organization, regardless of what organization you're in. So again, typical change management and organizational management and organizational change. We know that change is a constant these days, and it's something that organizations are trying to equip their workforce to consider a priority. So it's not just something that is maybe manager or leader specific. It's also something that is specific to organizational members. So you learn different things on that in terms of resistance and the significance of change management and what are the parameters that we need to consider and so on and so forth. Again, we talk about leading strategic decision making. So again, this is about strategy. And the focus here, again, strategy is very much linked to change, isn't it? Because the idea is that strategy, you want to ensure that the strategy within the organization is aligned with what's going on externally, isn't it? So these are some of the things you're prioritizing there, but you're also understanding what do we need in terms of leading people, motivating people to go with the strategy and so on. Again, we've highlighted marketing. So what are some of the parameters for a high performing organization? So these are some of the things you're going to learn there, but also how do we market these things? How do we market ourselves? How do we brand ourselves as an organization? And finance, which again is very important. So again, we're learning about what are the macro and microeconomic factors that we need to consider, but also what is our financial strength in the organization. And again, these are some things that everybody needs to know about in terms of when you're making decisions and implementing a change and so on and so forth. So the 4 core modules are really quite central. And again, they give you a taster whether you've had specialized in that area or not. With the MBA project, as I said, that's 40 credits. And that's really important. As I said, I always advise that if you're going to do when you're going to do your project, make sure it's something that you're passionate about, because you will get 2 trimesters to complete that. And so you want something that you have passion about, something that you're very much interested in, so you can really get involved in that in terms of the project. So those are the structure of the courses that you'll be taking. So you will the way it works is that you will do the first 6 before you then move on to the research skills for managers and the MBA project. So if you haven't maybe passed those first 6, you won't be able to go on to the project. And the reason why is because the project, those are areas where you get to really specialize in the area that you're involved in. And so the idea is that you've kind of developed elements that are relevant to that before you then go into the project. So just to quickly highlight the exit points then. So this is recognizing that as much as we would love everyone to finish and go through the whole process with their MBA, we recognize that in some cases things can happen and people might not be able to fully complete that. But we recognize that at different stages, you will come out with some sort of diploma or certificate depending on the levels that you complete. Yeah. So if you go through the whole process and finish the MBA project, you will graduate with an MBA, yeah, and so that would mean 180 credits in total. If you say do the first six, and you say don't complete the last part, which is the research skills for manager and the MBA project, you come out with the 120 credits. Yeah. And so basically you can see there that it's really the MBA project that completes the MBA. Yeah. So you will get a diploma, a postgraduate diploma, which still has some good standing. If you do only three, for instance, you will still get a certificate and you get 60 credits. So that would be 20 each. So that would be three modules. And if you do the individual modules as well, those carry some sort of award as well. And that would be something, say, for example, that could look good for employers as well, where you might say, I'm applying for this job in change management, and I think that I'll be good at this job because I've completed a module at MBA level for, management and organizational change kind of thing. And so that will still be recognized as well as something valuable. But obviously, we would like you to go through the whole process, but just to make you aware of the different exit points on there. So this gives you a rough idea of the different MBA specialists that we have. So again, you can see MBA in banking, and that's the two specialist modules that you'll be taking, HRM and so on, and such. Yeah. So that gives you a picture in terms of the different specialists and what is required in terms of the different modules there. So in terms of the actual program then, in terms of how it's structured, so the program itself, we say, is 100% online. And what we mean by that is you're not expected to be on campus. Everything is strictly online. So you will get once you start, you will have access to our virtual learning environments, which we'll call Moodle, and everything will be on there in terms of the different when the course that you are taking and the material, the assessment, everything will be strictly online there. So 100% online. There's no requirement to be on campus, but if you do want to visit the campus, that's something that you can do as well. But if you make myself or the global online team aware of this, then they'll be able to arrange that to expect you and just to give you some guidance, but 100% online. We say it's asynchronous, and what we mean by that is there wouldn't be a case where the teacher or who and the students will be in the same environment at the same time, except during the live sessions, which I'll talk about in the next couple of slides. In most cases, it's very much flexible then, because you're going on online, looking at the different topics that you're covering for that week, for example, going through the reading materials, going through the different exercises at your own pace, at your own time. And so it's really built and designed for people who work part-time, people who are maybe working full-time and have a certain amount of time to complete the course. So very flexible, allows you to do it at your own pace. Even the live session that I mentioned earlier, it's not voluntary. I mean, sorry, it's not compulsory. It's something that's voluntary. So, but it's recorded. So that means if you want to have a look at the recording at a later time, which we do advise, that's something that is available for you as well. So um, the materials are meant to be engaging, because we have a range of activities built into the learning. So some of the materials will be expert videos, some of it will involve some sort of discussion with other students on the program. So again, it gives you that perspective to be able to discuss with other people from different parts of the world who are taking the program. So it's very self-directed, very interactive and engaging, because we use a range of things: case studies, reports, discussion forums, experts, interviews, and so on and so forth. Yeah. It's a truly international student experience. Like I said, we have several students from different parts of the world on our programs, and so it's a great chance for you as well to interact with different people on the course doing similar things and just gain their perspective on the same topics, which hopefully will contribute towards your learning as well. We have 3 intakes per year, so we have January, September, and May. So again, it gives you a lot of opportunities in terms of the different times that you can come in and take the program. So very quite flexible, and it's been built that way in mind. So for our assessments then, we provide formative feedback and summative assessments. So what we mean by formative feedback is we give you feedback ongoing as you go through the program. And one way that we do that is through these live sessions that I mentioned. So for every module that you take, so let's take the managing and organizational change module, you're going to have 10 units, and these units comprise of 10 topics that you cover on that module. And each week there will be a live session, and the benefit of that live session is the tutor or your module leader will go through some of the key points on that particular topic, but also in most cases there will be some activities or question and answer session where you can have a discussion. Different people will be involved as well, based on the students on the program. So this is a chance then to ask questions where you can get formative feedback, and that could come from both ourselves as lecturers, but also from other students as well, in terms of their information and their own perspectives. So there is that opportunity, but also you get formative feedback through different discussion forums that might be on the module, or different activities that you've been asked to engage in. So there will be a lot of support, and it's not the case whereby you will just be left at your own devices. Most of the time there will be opportunities, but obviously taking into consideration that self-directed aspect as well. So as much as it's self-directed and you can do that at your own pace, just something for you to be aware of, there is that element of that formative feedback available to you as well. And then you have your final assessments, which is a summative assessment, which you get to do at the end of the 13 weeks of teaching. So the structure of the assessment on most modules will have 2 key formats. So the first format would be you would get a 10%. 10% of your overall mark will be based on end of unit tests. So like I said, you have 10 units for each module, which covers 10 different topics that you'll be discussing on that module. At the end of each unit, there will be an assessment for you to do, which is usually in the form of a multiple choice. And it's just to test and ensure that you have understood some of the key learning outcomes from that unit. Yeah. And so that will be accounting for 10% of your overall mark. And then 90% of your overall mark would be some sort of a report or an essay, which will be due in week 13. So that's one structure. In some modules, the structure of the assessment is that you will have one assessment which will be worth 50%, which will be halfway through the semester, so roughly about week 7 or 8. And then another one which will be due in week 13, which will be the end of the semester and such, and that will be worth another 50%. Yeah, so just to give you a rough idea. So different modules will have different structure, but the predominant one would be the 10% and the 90%, but some modules will have the 50-50 split. So in terms of our own quality assurance process, so just something to make you aware of, we go through a quality assurance process as well in terms of reviewing the assessments. So we have some sort of a review process where we look at a sample of different students' work and have a look at that again, just to make sure that it's in line with what we're expecting. So some sort of a second review is done. We also have a system which we use for submission of assignments, which we call Turnitin. So this is a system which assesses plagiarism and makes sure that the work that's submitted is original. And so in the case that maybe there's issues in terms of originality, you could be asked at some time to come in and defend your work through some sort of a viva or something like that. We don't normally do this because for most times we reiterate our quality process, and most students are we find usually adapt to that. So that's not something that we do regularly, but that's something just to make you aware of. That could happen through the quality process, but we do have a quality process as well to make sure that the work that's submitted is original and is also of quality expected. So in terms of the structure of your trimester then, so if you this gives you a rough idea in terms of how long it can take for you to finish the program. So if you decide to take 2 modules per trimester, you can kind of see how roughly that long that would take for you to complete it. Yeah. So we wouldn't recommend taking more than 2 per trimester. So if you take the maximum of 2 that is recommended, it gives you roughly the time it will take for you to complete your program. And then you can see there for the actual project, you'll be given 2 trimesters to complete that. Yeah. But just you can do it within 1, but you are given 2. And I certainly advise students to take the 2 because it gives you enough time to ensure that you're ensuring that the project is of a high quality. But in some cases, some people already have access to data, and so it makes it quicker. So it depends on individuals, but roughly that gives you an idea. In terms of how we go about the different weeks, so the first week you usually get access to the module material on our virtual learning environment. There will be some sort of online induction, and that's something that would usually be done by myself or our program leader, Dr. Andrew Bratton, or both of us will be on that induction again to give you an idea of what to expect, where the different forms of support are available to you, some of the tools that you need to be aware of from the beginning. So really quite key, but everything that we do online is recorded. So again, that's usually recorded and will be made available to you if you can't join. So that's some of the information that you get in the first week, and then between week 2 and 12, you get to dive into the module studies, and then in week 13 will be the submission of your final assignment. Okay, so that's giving us an idea roughly then of how the module is structured, about Napier, your assessment structure. And so now I just want to quickly highlight some of the entry requirements and fees. So in terms of fees, that would be more directed to Stafford. But in terms of entry requirements, so the default minimum requirement is a honors degree at 2.2 plus 2 years relevant work experience. So I would say to consult your staff, to speak to your Stafford consultant in terms of what will warrant as relevant work experience in that case. We do recognize, however, that because we have students coming from different parts of the world and they have different degree structure qualifications, so this is a default one in terms of the honors. There is opportunity as well to review on a case-by-case basis. Yeah, so just not to say that if you don't have that, that would be the end of that, for instance. So if, say, maybe you have 10 years work experience, for instance, and the qualification is slightly different, that's something that we can review. So we would look at maybe the learning outcomes of our courses. For instance, we would look at the learning outcomes of what you've done before and kind of go by that in terms of trying to understand better what we will consider acceptable, but it's something discussions that we can have in terms of that. So just to give you a rough idea, for maybe those who don't have the work experience, for instance, we do have other options in terms of the MSc program, which you can come on as well. We specify that the English qualification is really important because, like I said, we have different structures of assignment which will involve, a report, critically analyzing, applying an organizational case, justifying recommendations, using literature to support your work, and so on and so forth. So the English language is quite a key part, and so we are requiring that you're demonstrating a high quality of English language. But again, Stafford will be better able to advise in terms of what is potentially might be required, level of English requirements. But that gives roughly an idea in terms of the entry requirements, but also opportunities available to review that in more detail. Okay. And finally, graduation. So as you can see there, there's opportunities for you to come to do your graduation in Edinburgh. So we certainly had a few students who graduated in July who came from different parts of the world and graduated and also used it to come and look at Edinburgh. So you're welcome to do that. But also if you can't make it, your certificate is something that will be posted to you through recorded posts, and ensure that is something that ensure that it's guaranteed for delivery for you. So that's not a problem if, say, that's something that you're not able to do or come and graduate with us in person. Okay, so I think that's kind of some of the main key things that I wanted to cover on the program.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Catherine. That was very, very informative. And I have been going through some of these questions in the background here, and I've managed to group them together. Okay, so here's a very interesting question from Tim, who I believe is based in South Africa. Do the 4 core modules have to be completed before you can do your specialization modules?
They don't have to be, but what we have sometimes is that students want to change from one specialist to another, for instance. And I will always advise you to start with the core ones first, because once you start with the core ones, it gives you an idea again as well in terms of maybe, ooh, I'm not sure about this one, for instance. But also it's easier to change at that point. Whereas if you've then taken the specialist ones, because if you do decide to change later on, that's where it becomes difficult, for instance. So you don't have to is the answer, but if you're not sure, for instance, or you feel that you might change later on, it's better to start with those as a starting point before you go into the specialist ones.
And you mentioned that it's advisable to do a maximum of 2 modules. However, my question is, if I happen to fail one of the modules, what would happen to my studies?
Right. So if you fail a module, you will get a chance in the next time that the module is assessed to resit that module. So you get a chance to redo that module, and within that, you could decide to take another one in the meantime. But just be mindful, obviously, if you have failed, I think it's a good idea not to maybe take on too much, and maybe try and focus a bit more on that one that you didn't do so well in. But you do have an option to do another one, but you do get a second chance to do that as well. So yeah.
Excellent. And I'll just answer the question with regards to not having a degree. For applicants, as Dr. Catherine said, we do look at each application on an individual basis. If you do not have a degree, we do like to look at your working experience. So do submit a copy of your CV with all your relevant job roles and responsibilities to your academic consultant, and we'll be able to advise you if you can get into the program on the basis of your vast years of working experience. Okay, good. Next question is regarding examinations. I am aware that a lot of MBAs out there do have examinations. Is this an issue as your MBA only has assessments?
Right. We don't have examinations on our program, so it's not an issue at all. Most of our assessments will be based on some sort of a report or, the project that you have to do. So again, with the assessment, it gives you, because it's a report, most of it allows you, it's geared towards someone who is going to go into work context. So in that sense, we've gone with those because they're application based in some way, and they allow and link very much to what our program is about. Making it relatable, making it applicable in terms of going into work. So I wouldn't say you're missing out because you're not doing exams. I actually think it's the other way, because there's a lot of opportunities to apply, um, uh, bring in work context, and learn, go from there. So it's a different way of learning. So I wouldn't say you're missing out. Yeah, because we have a wide range of assessments that come into play.
Great. And if I happen to be late in submitting an assignment, will I be penalized? That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is there a standard pass mark for a late submission?
Right. This is quite a difficult one because, well, the easiest way to say is if you feel that you wouldn't be able to submit an assignment at the time, we have opportunities of extenuating circumstances. So we give you a chance where you can get additional time to spend on an assignment, for instance. So it's not always the case where assignment is set for a particular date and you have to, it's not a case where you submit it at that point or nothing. There is opportunities to extend, but the important thing is that you're asking for that extension beforehand, before the assignment is due. And those are some of the things that we will go through in terms of induction. So it will be looked at on a case to case by case basis, but you can get anything from a 5 working day extension to a 10 working day extension. And if it's something that's more serious, as long as you submit something like a certificate to say this is why, that's something that is usually in most cases granted. Um, in terms of penalties, again, because we have that extenuating circumstance in place, most students don't have that issue where they are penalized because there is something put in place to prevent that, as a starting point. So um, in terms of mark deductions, I don't think I've actually had a situation where a mark's been deducted because, like I said, you usually get something in place before you get to that point, um, in terms of an extenuating circumstance or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And then the next question is regarding the suspension of studies. In the event that I may not be able to do some of my modules, can I actually ask for a suspension on my studies?
Yeah, so there is options for suspension of studies, and we have different forms as well. So again, like I said, with the extension request, sometimes you can get some sort of a deferral, for instance. And what that means is, for instance, if say an assignment is due in August and you feel that you can't complete that, and it's going to take longer than the 10 working day, for instance, to complete that, you can ask for a deferral, supporting that with evidence. And what that means then is you would then only be required to do it the next sitting, which might be sometime in December, for instance. So that's one option. The other option is if you feel that potentially whatever the situation has happened, you want to suspend altogether. So there is options for suspension where you can be stop your studies for a trimester, for example, again, and that's an option that's available as well. So there is different options. So you can suspend up till 2 trimesters, yeah. In some very particular cases, maybe up to three. Say maybe personal issues or whatever the case might be. So there are options for suspension. It just depends on the situation, the students, and the circumstance of the context. But as long as you're making us aware of that ahead of time, there's a lot of support available in that sense.
Excellent. Okay, and we've got a question from Caroline. Is it possible to study online and then move over to the UK and study on campus?
Right. So this is one that we do get. Unfortunately, um, because the online one is structured differently from the on campus, we won't be able to accommodate a situation where you started, say, online and then moved to on campus. Again, that's something that mainly due to the difference in structure, because like I said, the online was pretty much very much online. Everything's designed that way. So um unfortunately, at the moment, that's not an option that will be possible. Yeah.
Okay, and if I start an MBA with a specialization route,
Mhm.
can I then do a second specialization since the core modules are all identical across all the specialist routes? Good question.
Right. If I understand that, um, so I'll kind of expand it in two ways. So first of all, um, you can do a specialist start that you want to do maybe a specialist in HRM, for instance, yeah. And then having done the four core modules, you decide I want to do I don't know, something in banking, for instance. We'll review the rationale for wanting to do that. So you send something to say why you want to change that, and that's something that you can then take. So you can change specialists, say halfway through. The where there could be a challenge is, say, if you've started with HRM, you've done some of the specialist modules on HRM, for instance, and then you want to change, that's where it could be more difficult, because then it means potentially that you have to do an ex you still have to do those specialists. And if the idea is really because, like I said earlier, the specialist modules um, that you take is also what you will be focusing on for your project. So if you started off with MBA in banking, you've done the specialist, that means that your project has to be in banking. So it wouldn't be possible, say, for you to do a specialist in banking and then want to change into HRM, if that makes sense. Yeah, because once you start specializing, those are the starting point of being an expert in that particular area, including the project that follows. So I hope that explains that question as I understood it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And I'm just going to answer the question with regards to the English requirement. What we do is we do assess your qualifications, and we also look at your working experience as well. So we do look at the individual application with regards to meeting that English requirement as set by the university. Please do get in contact with your academic consultant, and they'll be able to advise you as to the different means of meeting that English requirement. Okay. All right. So this is a very popular question, and I see there's about three participants here this evening that asked the same question. With regards to ACSB, they have been advised by the academic consultants at Stafford Global that the MBA is in the process of ACSB accreditation. So the questions here is, when will this be finalized? And if I do complete my MBA and the ACSB has not yet been confirmed, do I still have an ACSB accredited MBA? Okay, so that's quite an interesting question.
So in terms of the ACSB, the way it works is that because we are something that we're applying for, so all the programs, all the courses are geared towards that. They're developed with that in mind to get that qualification. So what that means then, it's not going to have an impact on your, you know, your qualification, if that makes sense, because it's something we've designed our courses, our programs based on, AACSB and what we're trying to achieve with that. So it wouldn't have an impact in that sense. Yeah. So
Okay, excellent.
it would be more policy type differences, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, and do you perhaps know when the ACSB accreditation will come through for the MBA program?
Right. So we've actually got a visit from our AACSB in earlier this year, and we got a response, and we've been accredited with our AACSB, and they've come back to us, and that came out recently. So it's something that is actually something that's been approved, and so it wouldn't be something that would take a long time, because we've gotten the approval. They've come and reviewed us, and it was a positive meeting. So yeah.
Excellent. Good. Okay, and a very popular question that always comes up is, will my degree certificate state online distance learning?
Mhm. No, so it would just be saying that you have an MBA with Edinburgh Napier. So even though you are studying online, it would just be that you've gotten an MBA with Edinburgh Napier. It wouldn't specify online. Yeah.
Excellent. And do you get in touch with your academic consultants? Because we can provide you with a degree sample that the university has provided us. So you will be able to see what your degree certificate will look like. Okay, and can I complete this program in less than 21 months? Is that possible?
How do let me have a look. I don't think that that would be possible. No,
No.
because of the time and the recommendation that we've provided in terms of what should be taken, it wouldn't be possible to complete it within that time. Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. And again, do get in touch with your academic consultant. We'll be able to give you a study plan so that you are aware of your modules and what you're going to be doing throughout your studies. And you'll be able to see, as Dr. Catherine said, it's very difficult to be able to complete it in less than 21 months. Okay, and we have a question from Mohammed. I do have a postgraduate diploma from a university in Saudi Arabia, and will I be able to get any exemptions? Okay, good question. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, Dr.
Or did you
Catherine.
want me to go answer that, or do you want to answer that?
I'll answer that. So, yes, Mohammed, the university will be in a position to look at credit exemptions. Now, it's very important, as Dr. Catherine mentioned earlier, is to submit your learning outcomes. And we obviously need your postgraduate diploma as well as your transcript, and that gets sent to the university to look and see at the modules, if they map, the modules that you have completed map against the modules of the university. And based on that, they'll be able to look at any possible exemptions. Do bring those application documents in as soon as possible. Get that through to your academic consultant, because the process can take a little longer. Okay, I hope I've answered that correctly there, Dr. Catherine. Okay, all right, and a nice question from Louis, and I hope I actually pronounced that correctly. How readily available are the tutors? In other words, can I contact them telephonically or via email besides online?
Yeah, so they're available. You can contact them via email. So you can contact your tutor, or you could contact the module leader via email. And they will get in touch with you. I believe we have a 3 working day policy, but obviously because of the time difference, just something to keep in mind. But usually that's something you will get a response. So that could be done live during the sessions, it could be through Moodle, but also it could be through email as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I have one last question. And do I get a student card? Because I am an online student. So how do I get my card? A very interesting question.
Right, so we have a student intranet page, which will be every student will get this intranet page. And so as an online student, you also have a similar facing. So for you, your student card will be online. And even for our on-campus students, they can opt to have that online one or have it done, printed out, so they have a copy. But for online students, you have access to your students, so you have the same privilege as on campus students, as online students, so you will have access to your student card via your student intranet page online.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, I've managed to group all the questions together. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We're still open for applications for the September 2023 intake. The final application deadline is the 11th of September, which is just around the corner. So please do send in your applications as soon as possible. Again, it was wonderful having you with us, Dr. Catherine. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And I hope to see all of you on our program in September. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you everyone, and hope to see you. Thanks for joining the session. All right, bye.
Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.